morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Welcome to Feedback Friday Art Edition. I'm your host, Jacob Johnson. Welcome to the stream. We're doing art today, of course, and it's going to be a special one. I'll be highlighting a new feature coming to a new area. I think you guys will be pretty excited about this. If you've read the description of the video, I am indeed illustrating some new dirigible possibilities. I'm not sure if Dave has kind of, mentioned any specifics, so I will potentially avoid doing that. But I think you guys will like this one. It's going to be pretty fun for me. I have some ideas on where I'm going to take it already. Lots of cool designs I want to explore too. But without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. Hello everyone. Of course, I should probably make sure that my audio is indeed registering properly. So, hello to the world out there. How's everyone doing? Seems like we have a nice full house today. Looking good. Audio is good. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump into Photoshop. And here we have a base dirigible. This is something that players are probably fairly familiar with, not the specific design necessarily, but it's one you will get to know. And this lovely design was created by Lauren Rollins, one of our team artists. And basically what we have is a paper doll system. If any of you are familiar with that terminology, it's basically what a lot of games have when you're kind of putting equipment on your character or making a custom avatar or something like that. You basically have a template of, this is the face shape, these are the eyes I want on it, and you can kind of like swap them out or dress it up however you like. We're working on something like that for player flown dirigibles. So we basically have kind of like our balloon as one of the kind of objects that you can kind of customize. We have our hull, and we have some sails. So the idea behind this system is you get to mix and match different designs that you've acquired throughout your travels for use in the floating islands. So you get to basically kind of have your own personal ship that you've kind of like combine different parts to kind of make your own look. So I'm personally so excited about this system. I know that the art team as well is crazy excited about it. We actually were like in several different meetings, basically like pushing the team, like guys, we really got to do this. Like it's so fun. We're crazy hyped about being able to actually like design these and it was kind of like on the chopping block potentially where it's like, oh, okay, well, we have this deadline. We don't want to push it back, in terms of getting the area out to the players. So, you know what, this is like, maybe we will kind of introduce this later. And, maybe it won't have all the bells and whistles right now, but we do want to and intend to kind of like give you some element to this feature. So I'm going to do some art on it. We're going to design a skin together. And I think it's honestly, it's going to be so fun to do this. The art team is like, we were like, all right, well, we need to like prove this idea by like coming up with like, here's a list of different kind of designs that we could create. And we just like kept adding to it and adding to it. And so we're like, okay, I think we're probably good for now. Yeah, so no gameplay effect to it. It is purely cosmetic, which allows us to potentially have some like really like excitingly rare ones where it's not the case of like Kalgora's rib where it's like, oh my goodness, like I totally want this trap because it's the best trap. But like it's just so hard to get, and your gameplay in a way is kind of affected by that, right? It's kind of it changes your stats and how well you hunt at certain content. Whereas this, it's entirely just for being able to play dress up with your dirigible. May not be everyone's cup of tea, but for those people who are kind of like you know, like I'm happy with the whatever design I have, and I'm not too worried about getting this one, you know, rainbow balloon or whatever. You know, they can kind of like find those and potentially trade those to other players. So that's kind of like one of the interesting potentials of a system like this. The like designs might be something that you could kind of like end up, you know, trying to get like a super rare one and selling it to other players on the market, possibly stuff like that. So I probably shouldn't speak too much until it's all like in game and we're like, yep, that's how it works, Jacob. Don't put these ideas in their heads before we know that that's exactly what they'll get. But you know me, I can't help myself. So I just got a message like pop up from Dave just now, so I'm like, oh no, I probably went too far. But I think we're good. So yeah, it's like cosmetic journal themes, but a little more unique because you can kind of mix and match parts of it, which I think is personally my favorite. Um, so yeah, yeah, can we use this boat to chase Ronza all year? That would be pretty wild. And I mean, if you do, apologies to your gold, I guess. Um, all right. So yeah, the idea would be that you could potentially like buy some of the designs from the general store, maybe. You know, for example, maybe you need to kind of like farm um, some of the boss parts in the area or something, or like resources, and you could trade them in. But also, some of them might be like rare drops off of a you know a mouse that's a little challenging to find, and basically there would be kind of some that might be easier to get, some that are harder to get, that kind of idea behind it. So um, I believe Dave kind of mentioned it last week that the traps themselves are kind of like very much designed to be more kind of like you can definitely make progress on it. It doesn't require some kind of super ultra rare drop to kind of craft these traps in the area. And we were talking about it when I was on stream last, where there's kind of like two tiers of each of the traps, where you have your base trap and then you have your like augmented, upgraded one. And those are kind of like, yeah, those you will make progress on always if you're attempting to. You know, you can always kind of like build towards it. It could take a long time, and there's you know a chance of getting the like resource perhaps to help kind of speed that up a little. Um, but yeah, maybe some of these dirigible kind of like parts are just a like super rare thing to discover, and so you can have that jackpot moments, but it doesn't affect the gameplay in the area. And so I like that kind of balance where you know you can still have those like super rare treasure hunting kind of like style play where you're like going after the jackpot kind of like items, but at the same time, no one's being kind of like punished for you know having bad luck in the sense of gameplay at least. Obviously, you know, someone who drops two of these super rare things might be like, "Thank you for this gold bounty" after selling it on the market, but you know that's kind of how the game can be, regardless. So let me just catch up on the work chat. Just don't want to miss anything. Yeah, okay. That's just the side chat. It's fine. All right, let's see. Yeah, so there's three parts that are swappable. That's right. Um, the upgraded tactical trap, I didn't end up doing the kind of swarm in the background that we talked about, but at the same time, um, we are potentially kind of like pushing that art a little bit further on a number of the traps, and I might go back and kind of push that even more. Right now, it looks pretty epic and different, and you'll get to see that in time. But yeah, I think because I might still tweak it, maybe I'll save that visual for you guys. Um, I was considering adding in that swarm that we talked about before. All right, but I've kind of rambled long enough. So, Brian, you were on the right wavelength. I specifically called dibs on the pirate dirigible skin, and so that is what we're going to work on today. Um, I really love the kind of like potential of what we can kind of do with this. The range of designs that are possible are just kind of going to be so wild and fun. But yeah, I really like wanted to illustrate the pirate ship, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna probably duplicate this just so that I have those for the future. Okay, so one of the things that Lauren was saying when she set up the file is obviously there's kind of like the order of these objects. So the very bottom of the kind of set of layers is the sails, and these can kind of like almost go anywhere, and it should be relatively okay. Obviously, we can't just shove them absolutely anywhere, but the way the system should work, it's kind of like as long as it looks connected in the correct places and the balloons are relatively consistent, things should line up pretty well. It's kind of like the bases and the traps and the cheese, right? Those kind of like always have to kind of like have some relationship that makes sense between them, no matter what, trap or what base or what cheese are combined. That said, the bases, we never really thought we were going to put backgrounds on a lot of them, and so a lot of the kind of mid uh, power bases, I started to get a little bit kind of adventurous with the silhouette of them, and I knew that I couldn't kind of like push outside of its regular silhouette, at least in certain areas. But then I was like, well, I could probably cut into it in a lot of them. So like the bamboo base and well, quite a few of them. When you throw a trap that has kind of like a full cutout backdrop on it, it looks a little weird because there's just kind of white space in between kind of where those little edges are cut out. So I have never, like managed to get these systems to work absolutely perfectly because I tend to kind of break the rules at times. So hopefully I won't do that too much here on the get-go. But the hull currently is the kind of middle layer, so that's above the sails, but these kind of rarely will interact. Maybe they will, it's possible. Um, and then above the hull is the balloon. So the balloon is the topmost layer, and the balloon includes the ropes and stuff. So if I had a balloon kind of like moved into different kind of positions, as long as it's overlapping the sails in an appropriate way, those should work well. And the ropes, I believe, we're gonna try and keep that as a very consistent kind of thing where they basically always kind of connect to the hull in these spots. So that's kind of one of the rules. Um, so the hull needs to kind of work with that. I might suggest us pushing the hull above the balloon layer so that the ropes can kind of be obscured if we wanted to like have this kind of like hull like thickened up and kind of pushing higher up, because right now I feel like it kind of hangs pretty low. So if it was above, it still looks basically exactly the same, but we could do things like kind of have, a big engine slapped to the side and it kind of like looks like it's coming out in front of the balloon or something. So that's something I might kind of run by the team. I'll try to avoid needing that kind of change right now because that would potentially kind of throw things for a loop, and I don't want to do that just now. But we now have a duplicate of each of these layers, and we can basically start to kind of tune it up into something a little different. So what I'm thinking for the pirate ship is they're going to have a little more kind of like ragtag, beat up kind of hull. It's very aggressive. Um, Maybe it's got like spikes and battle worn kind of like uh, balloon, like it's got patches and stuff, and something pretty like iconic with pirate ships in kind of at least media is the idea of their kind of like that pirate flag. And so I was thinking what if we made the balloon out of a giant pirate flag, so it's like flying by and it has that kind of like, big, we're gonna board you now kind of vibe to it. And yes, absolutely, it's got to have cannons, ramming spikes, battle damage, all that goodness. So I think with that said, I think we can just jump right in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep these bottom ropes where they are, but I'm going to change their color. So I'm gonna have kind of more of a gray blue kind of palette for this whole thing, I think. The balloon, I'm gonna go with that kind of like darker canvas. So we'll start kind of like pretty dark maybe. And let's try maybe like our leather brush and just kind of like create a little bit of dimension to it, a little bit of texture. That kind of feels a bit canvassy. And again, this is also, when we illustrate things, we like to work at a much higher resolution than it ends up being in the game. So in the game, it might end up being this small. There might be a few views where you get to see it, a little more up close. So you get to appreciate the details. So I don't want to go too far on detailing it. I don't want to kind of like spend the whole day on kind of this. One of the things also is I'm doing a lot of HUD tweaking with Parm and Andrew today. This week and actually next week we're doing kind of little tweaks and stuff on the current kind of state of the game. It's looking really good, but we're basically polishing at this point the interface stuff. So I want to spend a little more time on that today. So I'm going to try and keep today a bit short for the stream. I'm going to basically create this hull so you guys get a good idea of what's possible. And I'll probably wrap it up around lunch, maybe? I might take a little late of a lunch if it takes a little longer, and I just continue to ramble as I am currently. But yeah, I wanna have like a full set of pirate for you guys. So that's the plan, anyways. All right, so I'm gonna lock transparency on the layer. There we go. So we're gonna start with this base shape that was given. Now the challenge of the way this is set up is the ropes are part of the balloon, so they always need to have this connector bit here, and that should be okay. I might suggest tweaks to adjust that potentially, but I think we can work with this. Just kind of want to make sure it's not gonna make things a little too difficult to like have a variety of different kind of shapes that are possible. For example, like this front part, I could imagine if we wanted to, we could have those ropes be a part of the sail system as opposed to the balloon, because this as a layer is kind of a little bit more restrictive. So I might tweak that. But I think for today this is going to work perfect. So, all right, what I do want to do is change the silhouette on the sails. Right now it's pretty good, but I think we could go a little more kind of like, I guess like aggressive. So I'm thinking more kind of like sharp angles. The sail, especially because it's like the very bottom layer, we kind of have the most freedom with at least this portion of it, as long as it tucks in behind the balloon appropriately. It could even go behind the hull, and it should still look perfectly fine. Jacob on 1.75 playback is great. That would actually be pretty funny. So what I'm actually thinking is I want to have a little bit of the the like underlying structure visible on this. So like, let's see if I can kind of explain this. Like the actual scaffolding that the balloon or the yeah that's kind of attaching this fin to the balloon. So kind of having this kind of connecting rods, and I kind of like the idea of it being a little bit haphazard. Like it's not kind of like perfectly symmetrical. Maybe like a bit of it is broken even. So like this part right here used to be connected, but it like snapped and broke. So like yeah, I want it to feel pretty like, you know, it just had a battle. Maybe there's like a chip out of that kind of plank. So right now I'm just working on the silhouette. I'm not worried about the colors. I'll probably maybe like create the silhouette for the whole thing before I actually start to kind of like render out the actual texture and colors and all that jazz. So I'm thinking we could go more kind of like, oop, I just deleted it by accident. More kind of like aggressive. Let's see. I'm gonna actually like erase a lot of this just so that I can kind of like get a fresh kind of like idea of what this pattern could be. So I like maybe kind of like having something a little more like this, where there's kind of like some imbalances, a bit heavier at the top and bottom, or like the midpoint on this. See how like kind of thin it is up there, but then we also kind of like erase away to get like pretty harsh angles, right? So this feels a little bit more like, I don't want it to look necessarily very effective either. It's more kind of like they're like showing off in a way. So it's kind of a ridiculous looking fin right now. I think I want that. Okay. All right. I feel like this middle one needs to feel a lot heavier to kind of like take charge. And we'll like have it come to a nice sharp point. Actually, I'll just over erase there. Okay. That feels a little weightier. Cool. All right. Let's see. I like that idea. The Treasure Planet movie, it actually came up last night while I was hanging out watching movies with some friends. Um, and I actually saw Treasure Planet in theater when it came out, and I was the only person in the theater at the time when I watched it. And I enjoyed that movie. They did some really kind of interesting exploration and experimentation with kind of like the kind of merging of 3D and 2D animation, and they really kind of like tried to develop some new tech with that, which I thought was amazing. Blew my mind because I was pretty into that kind of stuff. I remember also when I got the spirits within the Final Fantasy movie. That is like the most un-Final Fantasy thing. I had the behind the scenes DVD for that, and I watched the behind the scenes, which is I think maybe 13 hours of video, so many times. It was super neat to me, pretty inspiring. Yeah, I enjoy some of the designs in that film. The kind of sky surfing madness and the ships and crazy mix of old and new tech. So I think we could definitely try and kind of find something in that realm because that's fun. Right. I feel like that kind of aesthetic totally works for MouseHunt as well. Let's see. All right. Yeah, Treasure Planet, super underrated. The way they marketed it totally destroyed it too. That was a shame. All right. So I want to do battle damage on this thing. We have a little bit right now, but I say let's do more. Let's get a big kind of gash in this thing. And I'm sure some players would look at this and be like, I wouldn't want that as my ship. Why would I want to have, this half destroyed design for my personal ship? And that's probably fair. I'm actually planning on doing kind of an alternate version, which is a little fancier and pristine looking, so can kind of pick and choose that way. Because as it may be clear, I have a plan for a lot of these kind of designs. I have so many that I want to create. It's kind of fun because when it comes to doing custom skins in the game, we already have a system for it in a way, right? We have the trap skins, but those are kind of a little limited in that we don't want to make too many skins for the same trap because then it's kind of ignoring other traps, right? We want to be kind of as fair as we can and kind of have options for players in all different kind of parts of the game. Whereas this, it's pretty neat because it's a case where, it's not, you have to have this version of a dirigible to kind of use this piece. We could literally make 50 different designs and they would all be just as valid for every player. So we're not having to kind of hold back in a way. So who knows how many we'll end up actually making for the game. But I suspect we're gonna definitely kind of have a decent batch to start, and I'm hoping we add more in the future. I feel like this is such a good potential for events and stuff. We could have a Halloween event that has kind of, well, ghost ship dirigibles. Why not? I mean, they're a thing from previous events. Why not let you kind of steal their kind of design and have that as your ship, or just parts of it, who knows. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is really great about this. I think one of the kind of challenges, of course, is this is great for the player. They go into the HUD and they can see their ship and be like, I love my little raggedy busted up ship. it's mine. I made this, and that's fun. But we don't necessarily have kind of like a system for people to like see each other's dirigibles. So that might be something we have to kind of try and figure out in the future. Maybe we'll be able to do that, but right now that's kind of not a thing we can kind of tackle because we're trying to wrap up the area, get it all balanced right, get all the HUD stuff working well, that kind of stuff. Pretty important. Yeah, yeah. Carl's cruise ship. I mean, we could do it, right? Like, there's no reason we couldn't try and kind of figure out a way to add in some fun, silly stuff. Like, I'm totally like, and I'm not saying that this is one that would happen, but like, it'd be cool to have like during the egg hunt, maybe there's like certain eggs that you kind of chase after, and they have kind of like elements of the event that reward parts of a ship or something. Who knows? Totally spitballing it right now. But yeah, we could have so much fun. I feel. I'm picturing like maybe we do multiple, Great Winter Hunt ones where one is like it's a big snowball and like an ice kind of hull below it, and then maybe another one and it's like like a Christmas tree and it's got lights all over it, fun stuff like that, right? Could be so much fun. Right. Feel like that's a pretty potent silhouette. It's certainly noticeable. I can kind of have it a little extra shredded there. I just want to make sure I'm not going too granular with the detail, that it's totally missed, right, when you zoom out. I want to still be able to see that there's holes punched in it, that it's got this weird kind of scaffolding connecting it to the balloon. In fact, I might flip this part right here, where it's kind of coming down here, but maybe it connects in a weird roundabout way. That kind of feels more interesting to me. It's almost like a weird kind of skeleton of a wing, right? I mean, technically that's what it would be on an actual kind of ship like this. It'd be the underlying skeleton that the canvas is kind of stretched over to create the wing. Okay, I see what you're saying about it feeling a little too much like a fish. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily get that impression. Although, kind of being pirates, I feel like that wouldn't be an inappropriate vibe, because they probably would eat a lot of skyfish. I don't know what I'm saying. Let's see. Don't know if this is helping or hindering. Probably didn't change anything. Okay, well, at any rate, the beauty of this system is it's easy enough to kind of find a different fin that will, yeah, fish blimpniks, that will, have that vibe that you're more kind of into. So, yeah, and honestly, like, I could see this being a thing that we do quite a few streams about, including in the future after the area is out, right? Like, I feel like adding an extra kind of set of dirigible designs, blueprints, patterns, whatever we end up calling it, would be pretty fun and easy enough to kind of like add into the game in, batches or events or however we would want to do that. All right. So we have the silhouette of the back fin. I feel like that's pretty ragged and busted up, which I think is exactly what I wanted. So I'm happy with that. Now, I say we do the same for the balloon, and then we can do the hull after that, I think. So, got the sails. I feel like, okay, the front one I'm gonna mess up a little bit too. Got some holes punched into it. Got some cannon shots that have kind of torn into it. Ripped that canvas. Alright, that's probably good enough, to be honest, because I still need to let those ropes kind of pull on those corners in that way. Awesome. Alright, so I'm happy with that. Now, let's work on, not the hull, the balloon. There we go. So the ropes, I'm going to leave these connecting ropes the same, but I'm actually planning on tweaking the top ropes. But I think I'll change the balloon silhouette first. And I don't want to go too crazy on the balloon silhouette, because I feel like it's probably going to benefit us to keep the shape mostly the same, because there's obviously the possibility that someone might be like, oh, I'm going to put a sail up here, right? And that's totally, that will work just fine. Oh, I want to put like, cat ears here, although I'd probably attach that to the balloon. Yeah, I don't want to necessarily kind of like go crazy, and I don't want to shrink it down necessarily, because if someone does a sail that's like right here, and the way they draw it, it's like just right at the edge, and then suddenly I like shave the balloon down like this, now it's just weirdly floating, right? So obviously there needs to be enough underpainting of the sails. So here, for example, I don't think I did do enough underpainting, right? If I knock that down, it's only kind of like in those limited spots, and it would probably benefit us to kind of like make sure that those designs look pretty decent back here, just in case there is, maybe like a transparent balloon or something like that. I feel like it would make sense to have these kind of rendered in a way that it would work if they were transparent, let's say. And have this all kind of like connect together. There we go. And that's probably fairly safe. It looks like it's all one kind of connected unit. And I think also in the actual like selection tool where you're like swapping these pieces, I believe that they might kind of shift or go transparent or change size depending on if you're viewing it on browser or mobile. So it might kind of like reveal, stuff underneath, and we would want to kind of make sure that that looks good. So I think that's good. That's good enough. I'll just need to try and remember to do that for all the other designs in the future. Okay, so back to the balloon. Let's see, just trying to see if I'm missing anything in the chat. Wish you could customize the Feroma Rift droid. That'd be wild. That'd be really cool. Obviously, we kind of didn't design it with that in mind, but even if it was just like giving it a little hat, that could be a lot of fun. It'd be a lot of work because the way that I created that piece, there's like almost this kind of like animation of the character, so it moves a lot. So if you could dress it up, I would have to draw a different kind of like version of that outfit for each pose, and that would be so much work. So obviously that's never going to happen. But I love the idea, and if we were to do something like that in the future, maybe I would design it with that in mind. Depending on how well this, system goes in the game, if people really enjoy it and it kind of like adds a lot to the experience. You know, it's something we might replicate for future areas. Who knows? All right. Talking a lot about Chrome bits. Fair enough. That is fair to have many kind of questions about best practices with rounds around. All right. Cool. So I'm on the balloon now. Time to work on this silhouette. So what I want to do is maybe kind of like push this a bit more forward and try not to change the silhouette by much. I just want to like change the balance of it a little bit. I want to offset it. And because right now the ropes are in the balloon area, I can kind of change this top rope as long as it connects in the same places. It's fine. So the back of the balloon, I feel like I should probably keep that the same. The underside of this balloon, that's okay to change. Pretty sure that that shouldn't be an issue. What I'm thinking is, what if we like give the pirate balloon like spikes? As long as I put them in places where they're not going to interfere, I feel like this could be kind of neat. So just kind of really pumping up that kind of like, oh no, they're going to like attack us feel. I feel like this is kind of going to achieve that pretty effectively. I mean, if you were to actually consider it, it's like, why would they do this? This is a ridiculous design. And that's all the more reason that I want to actually do this as the piece. I love trying to get kind of whimsy and ridiculousness into the game wherever I can. And this is just such a ridiculous thing that, of course, that's what the design actually is. So I feel like having spikes on the back is okay, even if there's like a big unicorn kind of, you know, fin tail coming off the back. Having spikes kind of overlaid on top of that, totally legit. I'll just little spike there, should be okay. I'll just not overdo it. Cool. All right, and I'll have spikes on the inside, but they're going to be kind of pointed more at us. So we'll get kind of a neat little 3D kind of vibe coming off of it, I feel. These ropes, I like the bottom ropes, not going to touch those. I'm going to do new top ropes, though. So I'm going to go a bit darker for this. I'll use my smooth brush. And so we obviously have one rope coming off the bottom, and another one coming off here. But what I'm thinking is I want them to be almost like really kind of bloated. And then what if it's like tied weirdly like across here? It's a little more haphazard that way. And I think it'll be really fun to kind of like show the balloon kind of like puffed into those spaces and kind of like, you know, getting some shadow and wrinkles and some highlight there. I'm just kind of looking at it in terms of like what would be the most fun way to kind of illustrate this. So I like that potential. And I'll even have it kind of puff out just a little here as well. Actually, I'll turn off the fin just so I can get this silhouette a little better. So it's kind of puffed out here. As long as I'm not cutting into it, it shouldn't hurt the other stuff that we create. I feel like That might be just enough there. Maybe I'll even do it just a smidge here too. Cool. And then, so for the ropes, I'm going to have it a little more taut right there. Trace in. Hopefully it's not too dark for everyone viewing this to be able to kind of see the kind of like lines that I'm kind of creating. So this is all the rope structure kind of holding this balloon together. So it's like very clearly kind of just not well done, you know, it's really kind of, they just kind of slapped the ropes wherever they could fit it, and try and like tie this balloon up. Also what I want to do is have kind of like patches and stuff on it. I'll just go with like a really kind of different color right now. So they've had to do repairs on it. There's like a big patch right there, let's say. And this can also be used to kind of help show the dimension of it, by having patches kind of like near the edges and really kind of like having them kind of go with the perspective. That helps to kind of really push that 3D surface. It's rolling away and you see the patch kind of, you know, angling with it. So that'll be fun. And then also it'll be neat when we hit it with the light. I feel like the patch could be a different material, and that might look pretty cool. So I'm actually going to do a different patch because, you know what, they had to patch this patch more than once. I feel like I should go a bit darker. This kind of makes me think of when I'm biking and I get a flat, sometimes it's kind of from the exact same hole, and you know, it's just leaking out of the patch that I already had on it. And that's around the time I replace the actual inner tube. But until I can kind of like get to a place I can do that at, I just need to throw another patch over top of that patch. And then maybe even like actual just like stitching across the balloon. You know, they literally sewed it together. So why not? I could imagine they would do that. Alright, so I don't want to go too crazy with it. Plus, we do still need to have the very important pirate symbol. Okay, so one of the reasons I had this strap go right over the middle is because I wanted to have it kind of interfere with the skull and crossbones kind of design. So I'll have just the really kind of basic skull and crossbones going. Let me lift that up a little bit. And of course, it's a very cartoonized mouse-ish version of it. It's kind of like a weird mix of mouse and man when it comes to this kind of skull design that I have been using. So kind of have the eye socket be absolutely massive, and then the actual kind of like cheekbone here, kind of the way that it works on like a rodent kind of skull is kind of like comes out a lot and then wants to go back in like this. If recollection serves me from just kind of, you know, various Googling images of mouse skulls for when I was working on the Bristlewoods Rift. There was kind of like a skeletal mouse. So it's kind of, you know, a little cartoonized. Ooh, eye patch. That could be fun. That could be fun. Yeah, and I don't want to go like ultra realistic or anything. You know, it's supposed to be fun. So I feel like that's probably kind of enough for that. And then we'd have kind of the kind of crossbones coming off of this. Classic. You could also do like crossed swords. I know that that's kind of a design we've used before. All right. Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna tune the color a little. Right now I'm just kind of getting that pattern first, the shape. I'm thinking of going like silver with this. So there's almost a little bit of like reflectiveness maybe, like it was painted on with silver spray paint. Maybe not that extreme a difference, but that was just kind of how I was picturing it might look. So what I want to do now is kind of have this influenced by the ropes, and you know, maybe that's not the best way. I think I'll just have to paint it manually. Actually, maybe I'll do the color first so I can read it a little easier. All right, so lock that layer. Let's go a little more silver. So obviously that pops quite a bit more. And I think it'll have like a gradient going on too, so it's kind of like a little more like sky up there, and then maybe a little darker down here, but definitely not that extreme. So there's a little more kind of dimension to it as well. And I want to add a little texture too, so it's not there yet for sure. But first, before I go too detailed and then have to repaint all that, I'm going to modify this to kind of be pulled in by the ropes here. So this is going to be kind of tugged in and like smushed down. So I'm going to have that come down here, and then this is going to get like pulled in there. Same with right here. It's going to suddenly wrap down there, and then pull down there, pull down there. So now there's a little bit more of an idea that it's being kind of compressed. Might not be the most obvious, but hopefully that somewhat works. Okay, and then with this rope area, I feel like that's just going to smush into this crossbone here, and this would be kind of pulled in, and like maybe like kind of smushed beyond recognition because there's just like wrinkling happening down there. So that might not look very good right now, but hopefully when I actually render the rest of the wrinkling, that'll look and make a little more sense. And maybe this one just kind of flattens out a bit more. Because it's kind of getting closer to that rope where it's kind of like pulling in, kind of rolling with that surface. So I just kind of flattened it a little. I feel like maybe these need to kind of go a little bit closer. And then have it, have a more kind of defined edge to it there. Alright, that's probably good enough for now. Cool, alright. So we have kind of a cheesy skull and crossbones. I actually think I could kind of make the teeth even longer or something. Just kind of pushing it even more. Almost like the paint dripped a little too far. Yeah, actually I like that. I like it being this like painted on thing. Now I'm gonna add a little paint dribble, and that'll also help kind of add some dimension to it by having the paint kind of roll on the side of the balloon, so it's kind of, there we go, it's like dripping down, but it's kind of following the form of the balloon. I think that's kind of neat. That's dripping into this one. Don't need to go too crazy with the drips. I think I'm already going a little far with it. I don't know, maybe that's kind of a little too much. Pull that back. It's spattered a little bit. Yeah, that's a good point. The drips probably won't read. Yeah, good enough. I'd say let's leave it as that. We can always kind of fine tune it once we're kind of closer to everything else being ready. Better to leave those high fidelity details to the end. Okay, but I'm pretty happy with that. I have the balloon puff out just a little more here. Just so that that rope feels like it's pulling into the balloon a little bit more. All right, well, the video should be online in due time, so you can kind of catch up that way if you don't end up catching the tail end of it. But for those who have to run, have a good day. All right, so have that. Let's bring our sails back in. Pretty happy with the sail kind of silhouette, and now like you can feel the kind of energy behind this whole thing. It's pretty brooding and dark and, you know, aggro, I guess, but it's okay because, you know, I want to have it very themed. It'll be a lot of fun when you can kind of mix this with another pattern that is, you know, a very different feeling. But now let's go down to the hole. I think all of this I'm just going to merge together. I'm just gonna paint right over top. So I want to kind of use a similar palette. I'm gonna keep it pretty dark. Yeah, rainbow unicorn, totally. So let's just start with a silhouette, right? We don't need to like use that same kind of lighting on it necessarily. And I'm gonna start to kind of play around. All right, so the bottom side of the hull where it's not connected to the ropes is basically free game, I think. I can kind of like play with that silhouette all I want. So I'm gonna bring out some harsher angles. And now what we're looking for is rammability. How well could this hull smash into another's? And does it look like that's gonna benefit this ship? So maybe this is like a little more reinforced. I like the spike potential, even though it's on the top. I can't get too precious with the specific kind of like little itty bitty details yet. I want to save that for the end. But that's feeling a little more aggressive at least. In front of this is just a can opener. All right. So I'm thinking I want to kind of like emulate the fins back there a little bit. So now this is feeling extra like trying to cause some hurt. It's almost got like dragon scales, I guess. Yeah, this one's a bit bigger. Actually, I like this one being smaller, but then this one being even bigger might do it. I kind of want this back end of this to feel a little more weighty. And then, like, what if it had part of it kind of jutted forward? Yeah, definitely. It looks very mean. That's kind of the vibe I'm trying to get, right? And there will be plenty of very nice and fun and cute versions of hulls and stuff. So I wanted to kind of like push how kind of aggressive and mean this pirate one is, because you know what, if any of them are going to be extra kind of, you know, danger boat, I feel like this one. All right. And I feel like the railings even can be more kind of like angular and kind of. Maybe not that angle, but jutting forward feels a little more aggressive. Can we just fill this in though? Is that going to look weird with the ropes connecting? Maybe not. Because yeah, like I want to add that weight, that weightiness to it. Hmm. Like the railing better? Fair enough. Let's bring that railing back. I was thinking of doing kind of like this was a little bit more kind of Treasure Planet vibe, I think, where there's kind of like that heavy back deck thing. That's kind of coming forward aggressively there. And even if, as I mentioned before, like the fin is kind of like really jutting out because the hull would be above the fin, the sails, whatever we call it. You know, I could have the hull extend all the way back here, and that should still layer appropriately and look fine. I don't think I'll have this one kind of extend all the way back that far, but that certainly is something we could do in the future for another design. But yeah, I want to kind of like bulk up this thing here. Maybe there's like a big kind of aggressive looking rudder. It just looks like a giant hatchet. You know it's got to have rudders. He's just on the same wavelength. He knows what I like. Alright. I do like it being pretty huge. But I do want it to kind of almost float out from it a bit. So maybe I'll bring in the back hull a bit more. That's a good way. Oh, I was worried I deleted it again. Okay, so actually like want to emulate that kind of the way the sail is connected with the rudder, where there's kind of like this weird kind of scaffolding And it might not read particularly well because it's potentially going to be a small element. But, so let's toss it in there and see if it works. All right. So I actually have a smaller version of it on my side monitor, which kind of lets me take a peek at, you know, how well does the silhouette read. And right now, I think it's actually pretty effective. We have a lot of the kind of like really jagged edges coming through, even on the balloon. So just as that, I feel like I'm feeling like that's a pirate ship. So that's good. That is what I want. Now what we can do is we're going to add a layer on top of this, lock the transparency to the base layer, and let's give it a little more dimension. We're not going to give it much color, but we can kind of bring out the 3D shape a little bit, just give it some rendering so it'll read a little nicer when you're looking at it. And then of course we're going to throw some cannons on the bad boy. I think I'll go more into the reds. That feels more kind of pirate color if they were going to use a color. Especially with the way we've rendered the mice for the pirate group. The Sky Pirate mice have a lot of kind of red fabrics, and you know, they have their style. Okay, so we'll do the whole hull as just kind of, you know, a little more reddish brown, let's say. But let's give a little bit of kind of shape to some of the hull, and I'm gonna tweak this part. The rails are a little messed up. Let's have that be pretty dark so that it really pops against the blue sky. And I think we'll even put like some holes in the side of the ship as well. But I think I want to figure out where the cannons can go first, and then I can do the battle damage after. It almost feels like an older version of the Huntington, like this part, the icebreaker kind of Huntington. The icebreaker hull there. Go darker and more red. Sweet. All right. What if we actually did make this a giant knife, a giant blade they actually use to steer their ship, and then maybe they like try and cut the balloon by flying at it and trying to hit it with their rudder. I feel like that'd be a pretty wild tactic that they might do. Let's get a little bit of a highlight on that, just to enhance that kind of hard metal edge. That might not read very well, so maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe it just needs to be a bit darker. But I should also test this on kind of, there's two backdrops that you'll see this on for the most part, I believe. So maybe I'll keep it relatively dark with enough highlight that if the backdrop is too dark, it'll still kind of read. So that might work. Again, I'm thinking it might not read the best. I'm looking at a super small version, and that is a little bit of a challenge. Okay, well, I won't spend too much more time on trying to force that to work. It's a fun idea though, so we'll see. Oh my goodness. How many mice and accessories have you done for MouseHunt? Many thousand? Yeah, hard to say. There's a lot of mice, over 1,000 mice, and quite a few items, traps, and all kinds of stuff, and I've done a decent portion of them. I certainly didn't do all of them, but I've been creating for this project for 12 years. I started, I was one of the 3 people that started the game. So me, Giorgio, and Dave were the kind of like initial creators on the project. So I've been working on this project ever since it started. It's a lot. All right, so 1,000 new mice. No, just a 1,000 mice that exist in the game, right? I don't know what the full count is currently, but it did surpass 1,000, I believe. Yeah, over 1,000 currently exist. Oof. It's pretty wild to actually try and kind of realize that that's a thing that I've been doing for over a decade, you know, drawing mice. It's pretty wild. A lot of people will kind of ask, like, how do you just keep coming up with new mice ideas? And I ask myself the same question. How indeed. But it just works. You know, give myself the kind of challenge, I'll be able to find a way. Honestly, like if someone told me what I would be doing, you know, a decade later, I would be like, that doesn't sound possible. How could you? Like, if it was like 1,000 different kind of, you know, characters that are, you know, different creatures, maybe, you know, Pokemon, they get pretty wild and different, but like they're not all various different evolutions, you know. They at least kind of have completely different base creatures to build off of, so must need something like that. But nope, all mice. I mean, I suppose that that's a debatable quality of the character. I would say that not all of them really actually feel very mouse-like, so that's certainly an element of it. Is I've stretched pretty far on what a mouse can be, so I'll say that that's probably the reason why, or one of the reasons why, you know, 1,000 of them are all unique. Right, so that, I was thinking of kind of like having those kind of like back room kind of feeling there, but I don't know if that's reading so well. Actually, no, it shows up in the value version of it. In the colored one, I have it zoomed out even further, so I'll zoom in just one more, and that shows up. Again, like, I feel like certain views of the ship you're going to be able to see and appreciate the detail, other views you won't. And that's just kind of the nature of it. I don't expect all the detail to come through, and especially not at all times. So I'm going to do the cannons now. Let's just kind of have them pointing all over the place. I feel like these need to be pretty big to even kind of like have a chance of being readable. Just erase that a little bit. I'm wondering if I should point this one down. It should be okay. I'll just have it point straight ahead. Alright, and then let's get the actual kind of opening for the cannon. Some big cannon shots that it fires. Alright, and then let's get some decently bright highlights on this, just so that it can kind of like really pop out. And hopefully this will read. It's a bit much. Again. Alright. The highlight wouldn't really make it there, but if it helps the visuals to come through, I'd say it's worth kind of faking the lighting on that. I'll have this one kind of pointed a little more directly at us. Okay. Alright. I feel like that is legible. It's not terrible. Again, you know, like we're probably looking at it more like this size, so it's still a little challenging to make read effectively. I think maybe the area where the cannon is kind of jutting out, maybe we draw more attention to that. It's hard to know. Until you see these things working in-game, it can be hard to kind of gauge just how far you need to push it. Whereas like a static illustration of a mouse, it's a little more kind of known how it's going to work. But since we haven't actually like got the system kind of running at full kind of like capability in-game in our test environment, where we can like plug in the dirigible skins and swap them out, it's a little bit hard to kind of verify that it works exactly how we want it to. But soon that should be up and running. Okay, so I feel like that's probably okay. I feel like I can tell that there's kind of cannons poking out of this thing now. And I'm just going to give them a little bit more of a highlight. All right, cool. A small lamp at the front keel. Ooh, I like that idea. Let's see. Do it on this layer. Oh, actually, I think I'll do it on a layer behind the hull. Should be like hanging off the front like this. That might be nice. I'm gonna have it kind of like tilted back, like it's kind of swinging in the wind, but also if it's moving forward, it's kind of just kind of, you know, falling behind it. I mean, the cannons are a little hard to read, but that's just kind of the challenge that we're faced with. If we make the whole hull a cannon, then I think it'd be like, yep, I can see that that's a cannon, but otherwise you just kind of have to infer. But this would be more kind of like while you're actively hunting on an island, you can kind of see the ship, but when you go to customize it, it's probably more like this size. So you could see that detail. Maybe this or this size. I feel like it's this size. But now I can kind of even see that, oh, there's like this kind of knife kind of rudder thing going on. So I feel like the level of detail isn't lost. But again, it's kind of, you know, we'll learn as we go, I think. So I feel like there's some pretty good detail on the hull. I'm pretty happy with it. I like that lantern idea a lot. I'm actually gonna throw a little bit of a glow behind it, and then have that like hit the front of the hull. We'll get a little more orange and lit on the front edge, especially like right here. I like this little detail. It's nice. Okay, cool. And then the light itself. Now I'm going to have it go quite a bit brighter right here. So it's a little easier to tell what it is. And then even the like band here where it's kind of directly over top of the light's going to kind of bleed into it and take out that shadow a little bit. There we go. So now it feels a little more like it's glowing, I think. Nice. Yeah, the map was intentionally designed to be like a mouse at one point because I saw it happening and I was like, oh, I could do this, and I just kind of like uh, when we had to add areas, I was like, well, what if we just add another area here, and then oh, that mouse has a goatee now and stuff like that, and eventually it just was prime real estate for areas that needed to get added in instead of just kind of continuing to have weird kind of like missing pieces, which there still are some. I decided to kind of start to fill in the map. So unfortunately, that silhouette is lost to the annals of history, but it was fun. All right, so I'm happy with the hull right now. I'm gonna jump back to the sails because that was the first thing we started with, and I feel like it wants some kind of like red elements to it. Maybe not that lighter red. Yeah, we want it to be a little more saturated, a little darker to kind of match. Like, what if this has kind of like an outline thing that it would have had at a time, but now it's kind of gotten beat up and torn and wrecked and weathered, and it's kind of lost a lot of it. Faded down. It's just kind of hints of it now, and then maybe where the light catches it just right, we'll get kind of a little more vibrant red on things. And now I'm going to kind of add in the kind of dimension to the sail here. So let's go a bit darker. We'll use our textured main brush and sort of show kind of like the actual skeleton underneath, right? Smudge that down, blend it rather. So there's kind of like this soft curve and then a hard edge as the canvas is kind of pulling against the you know, scaffolding and whatnot. And then I feel like this kind of structure here might be more like of a wood color. Have that peeking through, and then I'm going to get quite a bit lighter on the balloon, so I want to have some of that come through on this edge here, a little bit on that edge. Just texturing it up, you know? I'm sure most of this texture is totally useless for, you know, level of detail visible, but I always enjoy kind of like going too far. Something that I need to kind of try and make sure doesn't impact, you know, the timeline of things getting into the game. But see how much more 3D that feels, and there's just enough texture that you kind of feel that kind of canvasy quality to it. It's maybe a little faded from the sun, just bleaching it. Alright. Let's see. So, that one feels good. I'm going to get the same kind of effect going on the front sail here. And this is a little more directly in the light. So let's hit it with a little more kind of saturated and bright colors. Then there we go. Doesn't need much. A little bit of highlighting on the inner kind of part of it where it might be kind of just kind of folded in and kind of catching a bit more of the sky. Can even go a little more blue perhaps. It's a little concave. Yeah, let's just use the sky. Just knock it in to the background just a little bit. This will be interesting with a more kind of stormy backdrop too. I'd be curious to see how that looks together. But let's take a zoom out. Now it feels like that fin is like really kind of dimensional, probably too far, but it almost looks like it folds and unfolds, which is kind of fun. And I think because the balloon doesn't have that same kind of, you know, contrast and volumes, it feels like a lot right now, but I think if we give the balloon now some of that attention, it'll feel a little more balanced. So let's get these darks in here. And I'm going to use the ropes to kind of guide where my shadows are going to kind of start to impact. Because the ropes are pulling on the balloon, causing it to kind of buckle in, maybe cause some wrinkles here and there. Like here I would imagine there's some good wrinkling, maybe here and there. And the more wrinkly it is, the like more kind of just poorly put together it feels, I think. And I kind of want that. Alright. So that's a nice start. And now let's get some good highlights just so that I know kind of how bright I might want to take the balloon. Now I do want to still make it feel like that kind of pirate flight canvas. So I don't want to go too bright with it. In fact, I'll probably go darker. So let's try that first, because that'll kind of set how light I would need to go to get the contrast I want. So this is quite dark. I definitely don't want to go all the way to black. And this will also help the skull and crossbones to pop out a bit. So I take this dark. I'm going to want to take the rest of the balloon a little darker, and it might be nice to have there be just a little bit of a value difference between the balloon and the fins. So let's see, if I do another layer, I just kind of go over this whole thing, maybe darken layer here, and then I'll come back with my super soft eraser and just start to kind of pull it back a little bit more. Don't need to go too extreme, but I do want to kind of pull the whole thing down a little bit. Hey, buddy. Hi. I feel like the highlights are throwing it off a little, so I'll just hide that for now. You have a good walk, bud? Yeah. Alright. I feel like I can work with this. Let's use our textured brush. I'm just going to erase it back a little bit more. Yeah, the prestige base is quite potent. Not wrong there. I think we were like doing our balance on it, and we're like, there's no way people will get this far with it, and if they do, it's like, yeah, I mean, they deserve it, right? That would take so much effort. Of course, lo and behold, that's what you guys do. Always able to blow up our expectations. So I think we even tested it with like kind of like perfect catch rates and incredible luck, and like you guys still kind of managed to get right up there. So kudos on you. All right, so that's feeling a little more dimensional. Yeah, exactly. So because the floating islands is taking all of the power types aside from kind of Rift, and it is the highest rank area, it's, you know, like, it is going to have a certain expectation of the hunters. You know, people coming into this area, yeah, we're gonna expect that you guys have a lot of the best in-game traps, and it's not that, you know, you won't be able to play the area if you don't. It will totally be playable, but obviously, you know, you might kind of like avoid running, let's say, kind of shadow or something. I mean, shadow is a bad example, I would say, but if you don't have kind of like the ultimate trap for that power type, there are ways to kind of skirt around having to do that run. So I think that the way the area is designed, it's totally appropriate to expect players to at least have, you know, like a couple of pretty good setups. But yeah, even if you don't have any, like you'll still be able to do the area, you'll still be able to kind of make your progress. It just won't necessarily be as easy on you. There'll be kind of some extra charms you might need to shell out at times, but yeah, I don't know, I would say that it's a pretty interesting kind of system in terms of, you know, asking the players to kind of show their best and rise to the task, but also kind of still letting it be doable. But yeah, you have a little bit of time, so if you don't have kind of if there's kind of like a best in slot trap you've been kind of meaning to get your hands on and you're close, it would not be a bad idea to try and finish that off. And of course there are kind of like new traps that are coming with the area, so it's possible that that can kind of help you fill in where you're lacking. But we don't have a trap for every power type, and they will still take some effort to earn, of course. So you don't just kind of pop in and suddenly you have a new XYZ power. So I think it might be the case where, like, you know, one of them or maybe two of them are a little bit more kind of ready for the player once they've kind of gone through a little, you know, a couple of cycles perhaps. I'm not sure exactly where the balance is sitting, but some are kind of designed to be a little easier to get than others, I believe. Okay, so that's feeling pretty puffed up balloon, but with lots of wrinkles and scars and damage. Got a couple extra highlights on this stitching here, and I'll probably change the colors of the rope soon now. I feel like this is going to get a lot more highlight. It's facing the top right, and that is kind of where I have the light source coming in. Actually, the rope going over the eye actually kind of creates that eye patch feeling. I didn't even think of that, because I was like, oh yeah, we should do an eye patch. That's fun. I never actually designed it in, and there we go. I did it by accident, apparently. Or I'll just say that that was intentional. Yeah, I totally planned it. Alright, so this, I'm going to get a little more dimension to it as well. You get some wrinkles kind of happening on it. Go a bit darker in some places too. Alright. So it feels a little more kind of painted in on the balloon. It's kind of formed, like the shapes are kind of, you know, being pushed and pulled with the balloon itself. It's good. Soften that transition, leave a hard edge there. Awesome. All right. I think I want to get a little bit of red in the balloon itself. I need to use this hotkey, but okay, that worked. Let's see. Oh, was he already teasing at the next area after floating islands? Interesting, interesting. Oh, I think the ropes should be red. That would be neat. Let's do that. We'll have to kind of darken them up because they're going to be tucked into the balloon, a little kind of harder for the light to get at them. It's maybe a little too dark. Drop the saturation a little bit. Gotta look at this in grayscale. I haven't been doing that for you guys. Yeah. This is old ropes. It's pretty dinged up. Pretty dinged up. All right. We are coming up on 1 o'clock, so this is actually pretty decent time to get close to wrapping up. There are many other designs I would love to do, but I have to kind of get to work on some other things that I would like to wrap up this week. And they're less of a kind of on-stream affair. But next stream, maybe we'll get to do more of these, because they're honestly a lot of fun. And also I have a Larry link for everybody. I'll pass that out before I close up. But I say let's fine-tune for a few more minutes. You know, until 1 o'clock, so we have another 12 minutes. We can kind of like really kind of fine-tune it. So let me know if anything about this design you would like to see kind of pushed and pulled. Be happy to try and kind of make that happen. Just merge that together at this point. Oh yeah, save. That's a great point. Should do that. First save. I'm so bad at that. That's ridiculous. All right. I think we can give a little more to these patches on the blimp. a ship wheel. Ooh, that might be hard to fit in now at this point. I like it though, because they're always at the back where the rudder is. I kind of took up all that space. Oops. Merge that together now. Just a half wheel peeking out. Okay, let's try that. We'll make it work. Won't be able to see it, but there we go. Big wheel tucked in there. I didn't do like any battle damage on the hull either. Maybe there's just like a gaping hole right here. Not the best for ramming now. I actually feel like that takes away from the silhouette. Right. Maybe not. Maybe not. The fan for the thrust at the rear. Yeah, we don't have an engine on this thing. It just uses cannon fire to propel itself. It points the cannons backwards and just fires a volley. And that's how it kind of like builds its speed. All right. I actually want to get a little bit of reflection onto the balloon. So I feel like that might add just a little bit more kind of just dimension to it. So just right at the edge, just gonna lighten up. It's like bounce light kind of hitting it in the bottom of the spikes. Oh, that's another thing. I didn't like add any spikes kind of coming out of the center of it. That's a missed opportunity. All right, let's pop one on there real quick. Just little nubs. All right, nice. So now I can just kind of add some shading to that, and that should pull it together. Just gonna clean up those points though. Okay, now if I do something like this, just kind of fade that in. that one a little highlight just to help it. Here we go. Alright. Spikes added. Yeah, it just drifts sideways. That's how it rams into things with its spiky balloon. And I don't know, maybe it just drifts until it smashes into stuff. Who knows how they operate these things. Poorly is my guess, considering how wrecked this ship is. Right. Well, that's pretty okay. I don't think it's as big a deal, but let's give this a flip. Okay. I think the just clean the edge of that a little bit there. It's good. All right. Maybe I'll give a little highlight to the blade here. All right, and feels a little bit rushed on the hull here, so I'm just gonna take a minute. A wonderful idea about the Ronza ship. I like it. That won't be coming this year, but it might be a possibility in the future. How would you feel? And this is just me kind of throwing the idea out there, not something that means it's going to happen whatsoever. How would you feel if Ronza did bring a fancy new ship design, and like her ship is even looking extra fancy? Because currently it doesn't look nearly as cool as it should, especially since players are going to be having some pretty wild looking ships in due time. So she shows up with a brand new fancy looking ship, and then maybe you can buy the design, but it's like obnoxiously expensive. Would that be too much? Because it's a cosmetic thing, it's not even a trap that you need to collect. Like, How would you feel about that? Would that be bad? Would that be good? Is it very Ronza to do, and is that forgivable because of that? I'm just trying to figure out if that's a terrible idea, because I love it. Tradable on the marketplace, of course. Oh no. Maybe not even with a Chrome voucher. What if it was just like obscenely expensive gold-wise? And that was the only requirement. You just had to shell out for it. Would that be too evil? $10 million gold, not even close to enough. Not even scratching it. Just a cosmetic thing. Like, what if it was like 200 million gold? Not saying that that's anything we would actually do, but like, what if? for a dirigible skin. That'd be pretty crazy, huh? Yeah. Ronza demands all your gold. Definitely just throwing the idea out there just because it's ridiculous. I don't even think, don't quote me on this, I don't even think we'll do that. And 200 million gold is obviously crazy obscene, but that's kind of the concept that I think would be real interesting to explore with it, right? How far would be too far? And like, you know, something that could return in the future as well, so it's not like you only have that year to pick it up and you're not beholden to the player market board to get it in the future. Maybe, you know. This is all complete speculation, totally spitballing crazy ideas. Alright, well, we have reached 1 o'clock, so I'm just gonna wrap up this image. I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty highly detailed, but you know what? I can't help myself. Had a lot of fun with it. I'm excited for this one. I feel like it'll be pretty good to kind of like be able to try this out with a few of the other designs. I think tone-wise, it's certainly going to be a mix-up. But it'll be fun. All right, we need to get the ropes. Where are you, ropes? There you are. Just wanted to darken them a little bit more. Yeah, it's pretty extreme contrast, and I'm a little worried about how intense some of this contrast is compared to other dirigible designs. But we shall see. Add more ropes. All right, one more rope just for you. It'll be a dangling rope though. Here we go. Let's move over there. just for you. Added that rope. All right, well, that's the end of illustrating that. It's possible kind of tweak it a little bit. It might help to have other kind of designs slapped around it so that I can kind of mix and match and just make sure that they do in fact look all right together. I'm gonna get the Larry link for you guys. So just copy that link, open it to make sure it works. You know, just be sure that I'm not sending you guys something that you shouldn't have. But here in the chat, take a click, get some goods. But yeah, so I'll be working away at some Floating Islands content yet. Definitely, despite the cat sneeze, definitely getting close. We're doing kind of final polish on a number of things, adding the kind of above and beyond details. So it's feeling really good. Having a lot of fun playtesting. I've been doing a lot of that. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Still a little balancing to do, I expect, but you know, I feel like it's getting real close. So make sure if you are on a journey to do it, get those good, powerful traps. You're gonna want them. Getting some decent charms, not a bad idea either. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I know it's a little short for the Art editions. Probably not a bad thing, but hope you had fun with it. I know I did. And I shall see you guys in probably 2 weeks, maybe next week. I feel like Dave's gonna start to get pretty busy with final wrap-up stuff, so who knows, maybe we'll do a couple more of these designs in the near future. But until next time, happy hunting, everyone. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, stay indoors, all that goodness. And I shall see you guys next time. All right, bye for now. And again, happy hunting. Bye. End.